Marcus the Fingers going live again to talk about sync because that's all I talk about. Sync trailers, conferences, networking, making music, creating music. What's good? What's good? What's good, everyone? Back again to talk sync licensing. Here we go. Last year, I would say was probably really trying just because of, I had this grand idea for NAM, and some of the guys I had on the panel sort of took that and ran with it and created a whole nother event with that idea. And I wasn't like, I was supposed to be part of it, but I wasn't part of it. So seeing like that side of things, I'm
I
like,
think I know what you're talking about.
yeah, seeing that side of things, and I was like, okay. For a minute, I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't like move forward with the NAM thing. Maybe I should just fall back a little bit. But I just kept going. I did post something around that. My wife was very supportive. She posted like a message. I was like, okay, this is just how we moving with this. So I shared that. That was like probably my most like got a lot of views last year. And people. What's crazy is when things like that happen and you share it.
Fingers. How you
Yes,
doing,
sir.
brother?
J Tempo. I always want to say like JT. I've been in this reggaeton mode for the last couple of days. So I always want to be like J Tiempo.
You know what's funny about that?
Yeah,
I did a radio interview one time and I was super nervous. And I said my name just like that. My name is J Tiempo. Man, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Just been working on music and getting ready to do a little speaking at a couple events. So it's gonna be
Brother, you
great
are
year.
a busy man. Every time I see you you doing something else, you either got a live going, you create, you just talking to the people, you in the interviews, like you about to you were just telling me you about to do some NAM stuff this year.
Yeah, so
Next week.
next week, at the time we're recording this, NAM is next week. So I'm actually organizing 7 panels. I'll be hosting 3 of them as a follow-up to the legendary panel that I put together and organized last year.
That panel was dope,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. And that led to some, that was like the first time where people got to see how, we could shed a light on the diversity in the sync space, and that led to some other movements that sort of took that idea. But I'm going even bigger. They got me a stage, 5 times more audience, 5 times as large. The room is like bigger, and I got 3 sync panels, and I'm working on some other panels in the AI and immersive audio space. So it's gonna be, it's gonna be dope.
Congrats, man. That's super dope.
Appreciate it.
Super dope.
Appreciate it.
Before we get too far in the conversation, man, just give a quick little rundown of who you are and what you do. It's a lot, man. But go ahead, man.
It's a lot. You try to boil down to just like I make music, but it is a lot in that. I have a family. I have a wife and kids, so balancing that. And then I do work full time, so I don't work in the music space. I work in the technology, AV, IT space.
You work too?
Yeah. So trying to balance all that together. So it's like what needs
How
to.
do you find us?
It's I'm actually not a good time management, but I just don't sleep. So something has to go. So it's not going to be work because that covers bills. It's not going to be family because that's family. So it's like usually I get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but usually like 4. I want to get up to 6
That's
this
what
year.
I'm working on too.
I want to get it up to like 6 hours on average, but
it's hard getting that 6, man.
Yeah,
it's hard getting that 6. It's like my body can't do it.
Yep. Yeah. And I try to go to sleep like. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep by midnight. I was like, okay, if I go to sleep by midnight, I usually wake up like 5:30 to get ready for work. If I gotta go into work the next day, so I'm like, okay, if I go to sleep at midnight, I think I'll be good the next day. But then like I would like check my emails and like, oh wait, I could work on this. I might get a brief like, oh, I forgot I could work on this music, or I see something. It's like, I can go ahead and tap in real quick. And the next thing I know, it's 2, 3 in the morning. It's like, oh man, I just wasted that whole couple hours of sleep. But
man. So I daily no, I'm gonna let you go here and run down all the things you do, man, all your credits and all that.
Yeah. So far, I got back into sync about 2 years ago. And when I got back into it, because I was in it a little bit, like forever ago, 10, 15 years ago, I just didn't realize that was sync. And I got like music placed on like the Kardashians and Real Road and Road Rules. So that was probably even like 20 years ago, however long ago.
Nice.
But I didn't think much about it because I was playing in church. And I was, that was paid. So I was playing in church, playing piano and organ, and then also working full time. So that was like, I probably would have did that till the end of time. Until the pandemic hit, and then the church went virtual. And a couple of years into it, they asked me to come back and play for free, and I was like, nah. then was focusing on the sync and
Play for the
stuff.
Lord.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but that's not gonna pay the bills. I love God and
Right,
all
I feel
that,
you.
but
Mm-hmm.
God adorned his kings and things in the Bible with some things,
Amen.
but what is good, because I realized after that my music was meant for more than just beyond the four walls, of the church. And I started, pursuing these sync opportunities. So when I got back into it, I had placements on BMF Stars, and got a lot on there from a library I was working with, and then started diving more
Super
into
dope.
that, and then started getting into trailer music really a lot last year, movie trailers, video game
I've been
trailers.
seeing that, man. You've been smoking it.
Yeah, so that's like the current journey. And along the way, composed for Disneyland that launched last year, about a year ago, well, January last year that launched. Got music
Dope.
out there at a theme park, and then putting out
Nice.
projects,
I know the
working with
kids love
libraries.
that.
Well, our kids are older now, so it's like
Oh, okay,
they
okay,
like
okay.
our daughter is about to graduate from high school this year, and our son is
Oh,
15. So
they grown, man. They don't
like,
care about that.
yeah, they like, oh, it's cool. And I'm like, okay, I got experience with them. But
Right.
yeah, I definitely had to go see it in person, because I'm like, oh, look, I never thought about having music at a theme park. I was focused on like sync and trailers.
Never crossed my mind.
It's like,
Right.
yeah, theme park, that's a thing, but there's so many opportunities as a music creative. So yeah, and then
We'll get a
recently,
little bit into more time.
the most recent placements I found out last month, or late last year, I got basically almost every episode of this current season of Catfish from a library that I work with. They got a bunch of placements from an album I did with them last year, and then got some placements on like Smithsonian and MTV, National Geographic, just all across the board. So yeah, just stacking up the placements, working on the albums, and getting the music out there and finding opportunities.
Man, that's super dope, man.
Yeah.
So, man, where do I want to start with? First of all, what is your daily regimen? Like, how do you fit all this in? Like, with working, the family, the sync stuff, you online doing your coachings and all that type. Like, what is your regimen, man? Like, what is your day to day? Like, how do you fit all this in? You got certain days for certain things, or what I'm saying?
No, I probably should do it that way, but I would sometimes what I started doing this year, actually like this month, my wife got me this like forever ago. It's a notebook. It says I love music, it's backwards, but
Oh, that's hard.
so I started writing like my tasks and stuff in there so that I can cross them off. I used to
Yeah.
do like the digital stuff, but then it would just be like a list of like 100 stuff. It's
Never
probably
go, and you never go back to
never
it.
go back to it. I forget it's over there. So it's like I carry this around. So I'm doing good so far. I carry this around everywhere I go, and then I'm like, okay, what can I focus on today? And I just put all my projects in here.
Try that out.
And it's just taking us back to the, growing up. When we grew up, we didn't have all this technology and iPads and phones and everything's all digital. You have a billion gigabytes and it's like unlimited space. Like, okay.
You just piling on stuff on top.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah. I'm like, wait, now what was I working on? So I actually have, projects that I forgot about, because it's like in my emails, it's backed up, it's all digital. So now when I write it down, I go through the lines like, okay, what can I, and then I cross out like, okay, what do I need to focus on this time?
Yep. And it's, I don't know, man, it's something mental with actually writing something down and seeing it and reading it. It sticks more for some reason for me.
Yeah, and I've heard that from people like that have studied like, how writing helps retain things in memory and things like that. So so I'm trying that this year. It's been working so far, because I'm like, okay, let me see if I get a project like in my email, they're like, hey, can you work on this? I'll write it in this book. And then that way I'm like, okay, let me see, can I knock that out? So that's part of it. The other part, I don't have a daily I don't have a like I'm gonna make this type of music today, but I have I'm gonna make music today. So it's like I'm gonna make some type of music. It might not be specific.
And that's what you locked in on for that day.
Yeah. So well, it depends. I have to make music every day. I literally can't fall asleep. Like I've tried to go like a whole day and spend time with family and go to sleep, and that's just my body won't let me fall asleep unless I do something musically creative. So that's when it's like let me see. Let's say if it's a work day, I wake up like 5:30, 5:45. We got a dog, so I walk the dog in the morning, get ready for work. I usually leave about 6:30 to go to work, and that's like a commute. It takes me about an hour. It used to take 2 hours, which was insane. And now it got down to an hour. Work, so I'm at work from like basically 8 to 7:30 is till like 4, sometimes 4:30. Try to leave to beat the rush hour. Getting home is a little bit longer. That's usually like sometimes an hour and a half. So let's say I get home by, let's say 6 on average. Spend time with family. We walk the dog at 8, is it 7 or 8? One of those times. Usually, I think we're supposed to walk them at 7, but I usually wait till like 7:30, 8. So let's say I
Okay.
do that. Get home. By the time I'm like relaxing for the night, it's around 9. So from about 9 until 1 or 2 in the morning, that's like I'm making music.
Yep. That's your time.
It's supposed to be. I would like to do like 9 to 12, and then like shut it off at 12. But then it's like I keep going. I get in the,
Yeah, I know.
the
Yeah.
workflow and
Yeah.
the flow state.
Those ideas start. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Can't
like,
stop it.
and then
Can't
it's
shut
like,
it
man,
off.
especially if it's a trailer thing, it's like, man, I should finish this. I'm like, well, I can wait because it doesn't matter if I'm gonna finish it today or tomorrow, or if I'm working specifically on a project that needs a deadline and I got to do it tonight or whatever. But
Man, that's why like I'd never start music before work. I don't do
Yeah.
that to myself. Like I when I get off, that's my time. But before, I just focus, getting to work because I'll be late. I'll call off.
Yeah. Like
when it started going, I can't.
I've debated like doing that, like waking up earlier, like going to sleep earlier, waking up like 4 a.m. and getting a couple hours in the morning. But it's like, man, I'm so used to staying up late and all night and working now. So it's like, I might do
Are you better at in the daytime or nighttime when working like on creative stuff?
I think I am better in the morning, like when I wake up.
Okay.
But the time I allocate to it is in the evening because after like long day at work, I drive to work, so sitting in traffic. It's like by the time I get home, and sometimes it's like, sometimes I do like pass out, like trying to make the music. It's like, man, it's been a long day, and I fall asleep, laptop in my lap, and So
been there.
Until I can get to the point where I can do it full time, and it's like I already do a lot. I worked on 18 albums last year, and that's while working full time.
Bro, I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
I counted like, you said just last year. I counted like in all like 21 to upwards to 20 something.
Yeah.
Projects I saw on Spotify.
Yeah, so those aren't even the sync stuff. So I haven't uploaded any music to Spotify or any of those platforms probably in over a year. Because
the last thing I seen was like 23.
Yeah, because the music I'm working on now are mostly for sync libraries and trailer libraries. So they might say, hey, we want a neoclassical trailer album. So I'll work on that and then send it to them, and they might upload it to streaming and then also share it to their and they might tag me in it on the streaming platforms. But yeah, I haven't really uploaded music on my account in a while, just because I'm focusing on like the libraries and the sync and trailers.
That's dope, man. So tell me a little about like how did you what was the switch over like from church to like sync? Did you start making music commercially first, then you found out about sync, then you made the change to sync, or you just went straight from church to sync?
No, not straight. So 2020 pandemic hit. Had no idea. Of course, none of us knew how long this thing was going to be. Maybe the medical people, but so like March, I almost remember to the day. Like it was like that Friday, March 12th or whatever, 2020. And I was getting ready to play at church. I played at church like every Sunday, so I was getting ready to play at church, and they're like, oh, the whatever CDC, we gotta cancel. I thought like it's gonna be like 2 weeks, maybe a month. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna chill at home, spend time with family, get to sleep in for once on a Sunday. That's the big thing. Like I usually have to wake up on Sunday like 6 o'clock just to get ready to go to church for all day till like 2. It's a Black Baptist church. Great musicians, great choir, but it's all day. It's a commitment. And then the rehearsals throughout the week was insane also. So like, it's basically like you're doing an album, like a concert every Sunday.
Man.
But so that went away for like a month. It was like, okay, 2-3 months go by. It's like, okay, we might be getting back into it. Then once that like 6 month, especially that year, I'm like, I don't know. I still was holding out hope to go back to the church. And I don't think they opened back up until maybe 2 years in. And then that's when they sort of asking me to come back and play for free. And I was like, nah. And the thing is, they were trying to lock me in when the pandemic hit. They were trying to lock me in a contract to say when we open back up, you're going to still be our musician. And I'm glad I hesitated to sign it.
Just for no pay?
Actually, I think it might have.
Did they say how long? Or
I don't, because nobody knew how long, but I think they were just trying to lock me in. And I'm glad I didn't sign it because I wouldn't be pursuing these other opportunities. So while that was happening, 2020, I entered 200 music contests. So these are every contest I could find online for creating music, sample contests, composing music, use our sounds. And so I entered over 200 in 2020. A lot of those platforms don't exist anymore, but a lot of the gear I have is from those contests and sounds I got.
Wow. That's interesting.
And then 2021 was like the sync year when I started getting into sync. So I had I went to Full Sail University, and they started doing these virtual meetups on Zoom when the pandemic hit. And I met a guy, his name is Charles Watt, and he's in the education space. He's also big in the sync space. And he kept telling me about this
Okay.
guy, Nelson K. Johnson. He was like, yo, Nelson is into sync, and Nelson's hosting a sync webinar like this weekend or whatever. And it had to be, it
Nelson, a
had to be
cool
like
dude.
around, yeah, Nelson's dope. It had to be around like October, November, maybe October or maybe September, because I remember the time frame because we were going shopping for our daughter's like homecoming dress for that around that time. And the day that we
Okay.
were shopping for the dress, like, you know, the girls doing the shopping, I'm out with them, just hanging out, and I'm watching the
Right.
webinar on my phone. So I'm like tapped into the webinar, and he's dropping all these you know, sync things. I'm like, okay. And then started researching from there, and finding libraries and figured things out. But it all
Uh-huh.
stemmed from, you know, basically the Full Sail, going to those meetups. Charles is like, yo, you should get into sync. You should talk to my guy Nelson, and he'll, you know,
Did you go to Full Sail?
I went to Full Sail. Yeah.
Oh, dope, man.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah.
Okay.
A lot of
That's
people,
somebody.
yeah, a lot of people that I've connected to are from the Full Sail network. One of the people I have on the panel next week is from Full Sail, music supervisor from there. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a great network to be a part of. So just knowing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people, and then people help people from there. And yeah, so it's a huge network. And then, you know, got Nelson, learning from him, and then started finding things, finding libraries, submitting to different libraries, and figuring out. Here's the thing: I signed with one library, and then within like a month, I got those placements on BMF. So I stuck with that library for like a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really get any more placements because I was like, I'm going all in
Okay.
because, you know, this was so fast. I was like, yeah, I can do this. You know, I can do this every
Right.
week, every month. But then like it was like BMF. It was like I got some music on like a whole season. I was like, okay, yeah, I can lock in with this. But then it's like it was nothing for like a year. So I was like, okay, I gotta diversify
Mm.
my portfolio. But I was just so locked in on making music for them, and they have a lot of my beats and stuff, and that might, you
Yeah.
know, come to some other things down the line. But then I started working with finding other libraries, working with them, and then 2020. End of 22, I started studying trailer music. And then last year really was diving in on learning about trailer music and how to create it and getting the sounds I needed. And that sort of delved into figuring out this whole trailerization thing where I take a song and then make it
Yeah.
like a movie trailer sound. And that's sort of the
Mm-hmm.
lane I'm in right now. It's a trend. I don't know if it's going to last forever, but that's where I'm finding
Okay.
myself right now. And I like doing that. A lot of composers stay away from that, but you never know. Like, let's say you trailerize a Beyonce song, you don't know if
Yeah.
they're gonna clear it. You can only go to certain opportunities that have the budget to pay for like some of these big artists to use like on their trailers. So
Mm-hmm.
and then some libraries just
Gotcha.
avoid it altogether. And then usually, you know, that's probably one and done for trailerization. Whereas with regular trailer music, that can be used over and over on different campaigns. Um,
I see that. Okay.
but yeah, once like if a movie, I trailerize like Beyonce's Energy. So if there's like a movie about, you know,
Ooh,
energy
so
or
dope.
electric, you know, some electric villain,
Mm-hmm.
they want to use that song. That's cool. But now that song's gonna be tied to
But
that film for like
but
forever.
man, it's like a double-edged sword because
Yeah,
if they do pick it up, that's a huge payday, bro.
it
Like
is.
that's gonna be huge.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of those high risk, high reward type things. And but that's why a
Yeah,
lot of
exactly.
trailer music composers stay away from it, because it's like the chances of those landing are really slim. So it's like, why are you going? I don't even know why I'm going after it. But for me, it's also a great way because I'm going to these events and I'm meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I met Kendrick Lamar's engineer, Mixed by Ali last year. So when I meet him, I'm
Ali,
like,
yeah.
yo, what song do you want trailerized? And he told me he wanted, you know, cartoons and cereal trailerized. So it's like, okay.
Ooh,
So I trailerized that. Um,
that's one of my favorite Kendrick joints.
yeah, yeah. Remind me to send it to you. I don't know if you've seen it. It used to be posted on my Instagram.
Did you post it?
It,
I didn't see that one.
it used to be pinned, but it might be dropped down because I pinned
Okay.
my recent ones. So all my recent ones are like
Oh
Beyonce. I
man,
just did an
please shoot me a
Usher.
link to that.
Yeah, you know what? If I don't do it now, I'm gonna
I
forget.
love the Usher. Okay, okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. But no, keep going.
Man, so I was on one of your lives this past week, and you started talking about the Usher. I gave you a comment on the Usher trailer realization you did. Can you do you mind telling that story again? Like that was a super dope story. Like the whole Usher thing and how you got over his team and all that
Yeah, it was
in
interesting.
Vegas.
Was dope is I actually haven't announced it yet. I'll probably announce it on the next live. But I am
Oh,
I just uploaded a webinar that I did last month about networking, and I go more into details. If I post a link here, can you see
hmm
it? I know the podcast won't be able to see it, but
go,
um,
go.
that'll be,
Check.
you can bookmark that. So yeah, general story. I've been linking up with Usher's
Got it.
team. So one of the albums you probably saw on Spotify, I have this series of albums called The Fingaz Beats for. So my producer name and like Instagram and all that is The Fingaz, DAFINGAZ. So part of this, not playing at church, I think started in 2020. I started releasing instrumental albums for artists that I wanted to work with. So I got like The Fingaz Beats for Rick Ross, The Fingaz Beats for Drake, The Fingaz Beats for Russ, The Fingaz Beats for Hey Rocky, free Hey Rocky, The Fingaz Beats for Hitmaker, The Fingaz Beats for Jenna Andrews, who's a pop songwriter. So I got like a bunch of these, maybe like 10 of those albums out. So one of them is The Fingaz Beats for Usher. And when I work on these albums, I post them and I tag like, on Instagram, you can tag up to 30 people. So I tag Usher, of course, and I tag 29 people around him that I could see, like his mom, his brother, who's a producer, Jermaine Dupri, So Def, people around him. And I tag, I find out who their managers are, whoever they know that's on Instagram, I tag them. So I tagged his, the person who found Usher, I tagged him. And I purposely released this project, The Fingaz Beats for Usher, like a week or two before. My wife and daughter are huge Usher fans. I mean, I am too. But we were going to his concert when his residency started in Vegas, 2021, and I knew that we were going to go. My wife and daughter had tickets to the show. I knew we were going to be in town, so I released the album like a week before. So while we were in Vegas that whole week, every day I'm going live like, "Yo, just released this, The Fingaz Beats for Usher album. Check it out." Right. So. Randomly, his manager found me. He was like, "Yo, hit me up. Send me his number." And I like called him. Was like, "Yo, this is dope, man. Would love to." Just chopped it up with him. And the day of the concert, me, my wife, and my daughter, we're walking to. This was when it was at the Caesar's Palace Coliseum. So our hotel, we were at the Mirage. So we were about 20-minute walk from the concert. So we walked. So I was like, I'll walk with them, drop them off, and then I'm gonna come back to the hotel, hang out with our son, play video games, whatever, grab some pizza. So I dropped them off because they had tickets to the show. I didn't have tickets to the show. Dropped them off, and went live outside of the concert hall. I was like, "Yo, this is exciting!" Like, just dropped my daughter off, her first concert. My wife, this was like her first concert, like 20 years ago. It was like an Usher concert, and this is like coming full circle. Usher's manager comes on. I posted this. This is on my Instagram. You have to scroll a little bit back also, but I posted this whole video. Usher's manager comes on. Is like, "Yo, get in here." I'm like, "Yo, what are you talking about?"
Crazy.
Yeah, he's like, "Yo, get in these doors." I was like, "Yo, can you come get me?" He's like, "No." So I'm like, "Okay, I gotta figure this out." So I'm calling my wife. I'm like, "Yo, Usher's manager just told me just find a way in there." She's like, "Figure out how to get in here." So I go to the to one box office. I go to like the merch store to try to get tickets, and they were like, "Tickets. This is sold out. This is Usher. Like every show was sold out for like years. You got to get it like months in advance. So it's a sold out show. So they're like, you can get like VIP seating or whatever, like $10,000. I was like, my wife, it was crazy. Best wife ever. She was like, "Go for it." We like, I want to set things straight. We don't have
support, bro.
Like, we don't have $10,000. Like, we didn't have it. Like, it was like, no. Like, she's like, "Go for it." It's like, it's a chance of a lifetime. I'm like, let me try to figure something out. But she's like, "Go for it." I'm like, "Man, we would have to take out loans, get the debt. I'd have to go to this machine back here and hit the jackpot, to be able to get into the show." So I was like, "Nah, you know what? Let me figure some things out." So I went to another box office that was like around the corner, and these guys out there like, "Yo, who needs tickets for the show?" Like scalpers. I don't know if it's technically scalping, but I was just like, "Yo, I just need one ticket for the night." To get in, and they were telling me it's not a seat, it's like standing room. I was like, I'm not even trying to go see the show. I'm trying to go meet his manager.
Right, I don't care. I just
how much is it?
In the room.
Yeah, he said I think he said like $400. I was like, oh, okay. Now that's still a lot, but like going from 10,000 to 400, I'm like, okay,
400. That sounds way better.
Yeah, I was 10, like, okay, I like that. Maybe they working together, but I'm like, I like that balance there. So I was like, okay, yeah, take Cash App or whatever. So I showed him that I had the money in the Cash App, but I was like, I'm not gonna pay you until you get me through the doors. So what's crazy is it's still a long line out the door. So he had to deal with the people working. He had to deal with the venue, like people working the door, or whatever. I don't know what that was. Right. So he walks me to the front of the line, like in front of all these people, gets me through the gate, whatever, and then shows me like the ticket. He's like, "Yo, show me where to walk," because he couldn't go in because he didn't have the ticket. So he's like, "Just go through those doors and walk you all the way in the front." And then I was like, "Oh, okay, that bet." They let me in. I gave him the money. I was like, "Yo, appreciate it." And yeah, got in. And so ever since then, had some great conversations with his manager, agent. I bet all these people around Usher, I've seen him 3 times in concert in Vegas. The last 2 were when he was at the MGM. And met his
Mm-hmm.
his DJ the last time, met his audio engineer the last time. Actually, his audio engineer was supposed to be a guest at NAMM, but unfortunately schedules didn't work out. Met his lighting
Right.
engineer and all these people on his team, his band. I haven't met him yet. So I'm like,
Okay.
okay, he's doing Super Bowl this
It's getting
year.
there.
He's doing a tour this year. So I was like, okay, let me go in. I think I trailerized a song before when I was learning how to trailerize songs, but it's not where it is now with the level of my like composition and trailerization. So I was like, okay, let me go
Mm-hmm.
back in. I trailerized Confessions. I'm gonna do another one hopefully this week. Try to push that out there and see if that can get to his ears. And then you never know. So yeah, it's crazy. I'm getting closer and closer to him. Even had some
Yeah, man.
some conversations with Sean Garrett. Actually, one of the albums I have, the
Oh,
Fingers Beats for Sean Garrett, I think is out there too. So I did like an album for him.
man.
So just trying to get closer and closer to the man himself, but also along the
Yeah,
journey,
man.
meeting all these great people in the industry, and hopefully some things will come
Mm-hmm.
of that. So, and I go a
It,
little bit more into some of those things in the webinar that I'll have out on my site about
okay.
networking webinar.
It's the okay. I was about to ask you. Was the webinar going to be connected to the NAM thing? But it's totally different thing.
It's different. I go into sort of my mindset and I show some of the messages I send out when I'm trying to get these different
I was
panelists
going to ask you about some
and
of that. Yeah.
Instagram and LinkedIn, how I connect with people online. And
Right.
and I actually go into some of the like scripts and things I use when I'm sending those messages out. Yeah.
Okay. Man, so like what if you don't mind going a little bit into it, like what is the process? Because okay, this is my situation. So I've been going after sync now for about 2 years, and I was in like I was on a team. It was two of us. It was a duo. So now we put the can on that. So now I'm kind of working up to getting back out there by myself. Like how what's the process of researching these libraries? Because I always see people like say like do the research before you submit to them. Like what exactly are y'all doing? Are we supposed to doing? Because I go, I see the placements they got. I see what type of music they have in my genre that I make, and if it's something similar, I submit.
Like I had one of the collaborators I work with today. He hit me up. He's like, "Oh, have you heard of this library?" And I was like, "No, I haven't heard of them, but let me check real quick." So
Hmm.
there's two ways to go about it. One, go to like their website, see what placements they got.
Right.
See if they have a submission thing. See if they work with music that you create because you got to make sure your music is a match
Okay.
for their library. I like to
Right.
work with libraries that have had placements within the last 6 months. Um,
Okay.
maybe even up to a year, but later than that, maybe I'm not as interested. Only because I want to work with libraries that are currently getting placements and things like that.
Hmm.
I'm usually I used to do a year. I think now I'm more at the 6 month mark. And there are libraries that are getting placements like every other week. So trying to find those and then make sure that you submit according to their guidelines. Um,
Right.
and they might on their site they usually have a submit something here, join us, whatever the wording is. So it does take
Hmm.
research. There are my camera's going blurry, but I'm gonna keep going. There are
No, y'all
different
good. Y'all good.
there are people who have different lists of like library lists. You can go to AI and hey, what are some top sync libraries? I would say never
Hmm.
purchase. I know some great people in the sync space that do sell sync library lists. I tend to stay away from
I got
those.
burned like that, bro.
Yeah.
I got
Um,
burned like that. I bought one.
yeah.
It,
Yeah.
I contacted somebody off there, and they hit me back like, "How did you get this email?" I was like, "Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, you never know. So
yeah,
I've
man.
never bought one, so I don't know what's in those things. I didn't know it was people's emails. I thought it was just a link to the site, like just some lists, because there are some great libraries and some great people I think that I follow that I think sell this stuff that might be decent,
Hmm.
but I just wouldn't. You can go online and search it, and you can find those lists
Yeah,
yourself. Um,
yeah.
so I would stay away from that. But the thing is, that's one way is like looking up the library, searching on their site. I go to their social media also. Like I would see like if they
Hmm.
are posting their stuff on social media, and if it's not up there, maybe check their site. I usually do like a little bit of So it could take like not a whole day, but it could take sometimes 10, 15 minutes just for one library to do the research, which is not a lot of time when you're
And
talking
before
about,
you even submit, right?
yeah, yeah. So I had the other way. I had a collaborator today who asked me about a library that I think I've heard of before, but I just didn't. It wasn't registering. So he's like, "Hey, this library is looking for some hip hop music. Do you want to work on some stuff for them?" And I was like, "Hold on, let me check." And I went to a sync community. There's a bunch of sync communities online, especially on Facebook. There might be some on. I think there's some on LinkedIn.
Facebook, really?
Yeah, yeah, a bunch of sync community. I have one actually on there called Synchrist to Success. So I was going to a
Okay.
couple of the sync communities, and I just typed in the name of this library to see what
Mm-hmm.
people were saying about the library, and I saw a lot of comments like, "Hey, this library actually doesn't split the sync fee with you." So a lot of people just stay away from them. So I told them, I was like, "Look, it might be a great library, but if they still operate this way, I would stay away from them." And I'm not going to tell you to stay away from them, but I'll stay away from them right now. So that's
Right.
another way. Just there's people out there who's already talking about these libraries. So find those communities and go there. Just search. You can on Facebook, especially, you can just search within a group to see the name of that
Mm-hmm.
library, to see what people think about it, if it's been mentioned at all. So yeah, it takes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like researching and vetting and figuring out if it's a good fit for your music, your style. And then the other thing is, even if a library is getting a million placements or whatever a year, that doesn't mean they're going to get you a million placements a year. They might have their
Right.
go-to composers who they've been working with for 5, 10
Right.
years.
And
So
usually they
yeah,
do. They got they squad, they team
yeah,
already, and they kind of just work within that. That's why I'm
yeah,
getting a lot of too. Like it's a lot of people that's already kind of clicked up, got their crew, and they stick in that. And I get it. That's a smart way to work, to stick within your circle. But it can be hard sometimes.
yeah. So the other way to get in
Like
is
getting
to
in there.
find somebody in that crew. Like I can't um, call like Usher or hit up. I mean, I might try to
Hmm.
message him or whatever, but I know people around. I can call his manager. I have his number. So it's like you start
Hmm.
getting in close with the crew. It's like, okay, you're trying to work with this library. Um, Maybe you can look on their social media and your research is like, oh, okay, this song is dope. Who's the producer? Who's the artist? If you're an
Right.
artist and you look for producers, like who produced this song? Okay, let me hit up the producer. Be like, yo, I'm trying to get into sync. Can we work on some stuff? Here's a sample of my music. Or if you're a producer looking for artists,
Right.
you do the same thing. Find the artist. Like who's the artist that did this thing for this library? Okay, let me find that artist. And then you start
Yeah.
building that up, and that person you're collaborating with is already with the library. So if you work on, let's say 3, 4, 5 songs, and it's like you pitch it to that library, that might be a good way to sort of break the ice and be like, hey, we got some more music for you. Um, and they can be that person that's already with the library that makes that introduction. Um,
Okay. Okay. Cool. So when you finally do get into a library and you start getting briefs, I know some libraries will give you like a in a brief, like they give you some, what you would call it, some samples of what type of cue they looking for. How do you go about your research and, like, getting the right sound for that brief, for that
So
opportunity?
they call it references. So
Right,
they
references.
might say, "Hey, we're working on this project for this show, and we need a song like I don't know, just name a random song. Nothing's coming to mind right now. But I'm doing a lot of
Uh,
reggaeton stuff, so I'm seeing a lot of like J
okay.
Balvin references. So it's like, hey, we want
Hmm.
something that
Hmm.
sounds like this J Balvin song, um, and I go listen to the song and try to capture like the essence without infringing on the copyright of the song. So it's like, okay, is it a major key, minor key? What is the drum pattern like?
Hmm.
What sounds are they using? Is it piano, guitar? Is it brass? Is it
Right.
synths? And you could take sort of some of those elements. I really
BPM.
like when they give you multiple references, because then you start to hear or see a
Right.
like a thread within all the references. Like, okay, if they give you 3
Hmm.
references and all 3 of them have a Latin reggaeton beat, all 3 of them have brass and synths, all 3 of them have an 808. It's like, okay, those might be some elements you want to put in yours, and
Hmm.
then maybe try to figure out the general tempo of all of them. I'm working on a brief
Right.
right now that they set specific tempo to like keep it in the BPM one whatever range. Just like, okay, so some of them might be
Right.
really specific. Some of these editors might have cut to a specific song that was in a specific rhythm and key, and they're like, hey, it has to be
Hmm.
C minor at 120. You can't deviate from that because we cut it to this, but we just We
Mhm.
can't clear this song because it's going to be $1 trillion. So taking those elements from the references and figuring out, what can you pull out from that, and then see
Mhm.
if it
And make
lands.
your own.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you I know you do because I've actually listened to your stuff. But do you when you do that? Do you how much of yourself do you put into that that cue?
I like to. There are sounds that I have go-to sounds, that we all have access to the same sounds, whether you can afford to buy some sounds are a little bit more expensive. So it's like, okay, do I want to use the sounds that everyone has access to on this track, or do I want to put in some of these like higher end string sounds or higher end percussion sounds that maybe not everyone has yet, even though a lot of people still do. So sometimes I add. For me, it's hard to not add in some type of cinematic elements, cinematic percussion or brass and
Right.
strings. It's
That's
just
just your
like,
style.
yeah, it's like the thing that I've been, focusing on. I didn't mention that I composed a movie last year, or a movie that was released last year.
Oh,
So,
congrats, bro.
yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
like I'm stuck in this like cinematic, epic
That's one
realm.
of my dreams, by the
Yeah,
way,
yeah, yeah.
to
Like
score a movie.
it,
That's one
it,
of my goals.
it's
That's the ultimate goal for me, like to score a movie.
it's possible. It's like that opportunity came. Um, I released a neoclassical trailer album. Um, I just released a bunch of albums and I share them with different communities. So I shared, one of these albums with a newsletter that I'm part of, and one of the guys in there was a film director, and he's like, "I'm working on this film. Would love for you to work on it. It's like a space thriller. It's called Hemisphere." And he was like, "I'd love for you to
I
work
don't
on that." Yeah.
listen to that.
Um, and the soundtrack's
That's
out
dope.
too, but it's basically like synth music, space, not exactly
Yeah,
Star
it's
Wars.
atmospheric.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
real.
yeah, like
Pads and
ambient.
stuff.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
enjoyed working
ambient.
on
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So I did that film like October, November, 2022. Met the
Mm.
director last summer, like summer 23, and met some of the crew members. And the film came out maybe August, September 23, and he was telling me is streaming on. It first came out on Amazon Prime Video, and then he was like, "We got distribution on Tubi, so now it's on Amazon Prime Video, Tubi, and Google Play." I was like, "Yo, that's crazy!" Like, I was
Nice.
just doing it, building the resume. What's great
Nice.
about that, I actually haven't announced it. I told my wife this was months ago. Is working on things like that also opens up other opportunities. So it allowed me to become a member of
Absolutely.
um, sort of a minority focused uh, community that focuses on minorities in the film space called Array, that which is one of Ava
Okay.
DuVernay's companies. So I'm part of the
Oh,
Array crew, which is big.
that's super cool,
So working on
man.
that film gave me enough credits to become part of that. So actually, I might not announce that today because that's pretty dope. Um, so yeah, part
Yeah,
of it
man.
is just
Please put that out there,
yeah.
man.
So if you want to do, I would say if
That's
you want to
super
do
dope.
like work on films and stuff, maybe start putting out music just on distribution platforms, that you would
You know
say this would be great
that.
for those scores or something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
what I'm working on right now.
Yeah,
So I got like a in my head like a stages where how I want to do it. So first, I'm going after sports. I want to really get my footed into sports. So right now, I'm working on two albums, instrumental albums for sports. Then I'll start, once I start getting my foot in, start getting my name out there, getting known, making connections, I'll go and start spreading out a little bit more.
yep, yep.
But yeah, I'm working on a sports album right now.
And that's big because sports is all year round. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
right.
it's like, and then it loops again. Like it starts all over again.
Yep,
When you think about
yep.
it, it's like really like a 3-4 month break in between.
Right,
Um,
right. Yeah, I was just watching some game last night, and now they got football in the spring now,
yeah,
so it's gonna be like all year almost.
yeah, and there's like I know I focus a lot on football, basketball, but it's like I
Mhm.
didn't even realize the Australia Open is happening right now at the time of this recording. So it's like,
Mm.
okay, I was watching Coco Golf yesterday. It's like, so
Mhm.
there's always sports happening. There's always going to be some like random
Always.
golf tournament, or some
Yep,
random thing.
yep.
Uh, but in the U.S., you got baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Just those four
Yep.
alone, there's enough opportunities and things like that for around the
Right.
sports.
When you're working on an album, uh, um, do you stick with a like a certain theme? Like how do you go about that?
Yeah, so albums like the ones I worked on last year were all for libraries. So they would say,
Mhm.
"Hey, we're working on a like one time they were working on a um, I work with one trailer library. They needed like mechanical, like clock ticking and metal sounds. So they're like, "Hey, we're working on this type of album. Can you give us some music for this?" Another one was
Mhm.
like, "Hey, we're working on like atmospheric, like pad type album. Can you give us
Right.
some stuff for this?" A library, one library now, they want me to work on a neoclassical trailer album for them. And I have a couple of those out
Mm.
with some other libraries. Some I
Neoclassical.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like like the stuff you would hear on a that's really great for shows like Bridgerton or a lot of those
Mm.
mystery, like murder mystery or
Right, right,
Knives
right.
Out type trailers. Uh, so
Okay, okay,
sometimes
okay.
the library will say, "Hey, can you make something like this for us?" Sometimes I get, "Hey, can you just make us percussion only um, like albums?" Like, yeah, I can do that. So
Mhm.
I've done that for a couple libraries. So it just depends. I did one that's just piano and strings for a library.
Mhm.
So it's just piano chords and like orchestral like strings. So yeah, I think there's room for really all kinds of genres in the sync space. And what's great about
Yeah.
that is I could be like, um, I work with some libraries that send briefs, so it's like, okay, between like the briefs and the projects I have, it's like, okay, what do I feel like making today? Like, do I feel like doing piano and strings, or
Mhm.
do I feel like doing, epic cinematic trailer, high action stuff, or do
Yeah.
I just want to make something real simple that maybe an idea I can knock out? So yeah, so I have those options now. When I sit down to create, it's like, what do
Right.
I feel like making, or what opportunities do I want to chase to try to get those
Mhm.
placements? So yeah, starting to build up those
Okay.
that catalog.
All right, that's cool. So, I hear a lot about with different sync people or like people on social media and stuff. They always talk about specializing in the genre. Do you stick to that?
I don't because it would limit me. There are opportunities that I've had by sharing other genres. Maybe once I start seeing like because my goal was to just coming up like my goal was to like get in the studio with like Beyonce and Drake and Jay-Z making like hip hop R&B. Um, so if I
Do you
just
tell? I'm
yeah
sorry, I
yeah
didn't mean to cut
no
you
no
off like that.
go ahead.
But do you tell the supervisor or libraries that you do all of these things, or you like this? This is what I do. But if you do need that, I can also do this. Or like how do you introduce it?
I usually send them. I have a bunch of links. I use Disco, so I have a bunch of like sampler
Okay.
links. So a lot of
Mm.
them, like when you reach out to these libraries, a lot of them have a way for you to upload music. Let's say 3 to 5 tracks. So I would go and
Right.
find out what music they are placing or have placed recently and try to see if I have that in
Hmm.
my catalog to send to them. And then if they're interested, I can say, hey, I do, pop or hip hop or other genres also. But I wouldn't starting out start saying I do 10 different genres. I would choose like one or two, like what's your main focus. But I work with enough libraries now that have all these different opportunities. Where it's like, okay, let me see if I can tap into this lane. If they're working on a EDM album, I tried that and I was like, I know that's my weakness. So I was like, I'll probably stay away from that unless I collaborate with another
Okay.
a producer. EDM is just a whole other beast. But I would have
Yeah,
never,
that's a whole them
yeah,
brothers, man. Them guys.
yeah, that's insane.
Whole nother level.
But I would have never dived
I put
into
them up
like
there with the trailer guys though.
that's what I was
I was
about to say.
like, y'all neck and neck.
I would have never dived into the trailer side if I didn't try to like expand beyond like hip hop, R&B, pop. And now I'm figuring out the lane in the trailer space. It is highly competitive because it's one of those high risk, high reward type things.
Yeah, yeah. And those guys, it's like they take it serious. They got the high end sounds. They got all the the sound effects and stuff. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
man,
yep,
it's a different beast up there.
yep.
What do you feel your strongest area is in production? Like, melody, drums, percussion, foley, and all that. Like, what do you feel like your strongest?
Um, I think right now it's the cinematic stuff, like hearing a song. Uh, I like hearing a song. That's why I like going to these events or even reaching out to people like producers and songwriters and engineers and artists and seeing what they say they want Trailerize because it's not always songs like I would have thought uh, Ali or Mixed by Ali would have said the Kendrick Lamar song he wanted Trailerize would be like uh, Humble or All Right. One of the like
Mm-hmm.
the mega
On
hits.
the popular,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But he went back to
He
cartoons and
gave you
cereal.
a
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was like, okay.
That's a joint. You only know that if you a real fan of Kendrick. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't even out commercially.
Yeah. So that's like a deep cut. So it's interesting
Yeah.
going to getting that information from the artist and seeing like how they think about an answer to that question. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, like taking a song like that, and that's actually a service I offer on my site too, where if you're an artist and you have a song you want trailerized, I offer a service where I will trailerize your song, and then if we both like it, I'll pitch it to
That's
opportunities that
smart.
I get
That's smart, man.
um, to pitch the actual
Yeah.
trailers and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say adding that cinematic flair to songs is sort of my strength right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you had somebody coming to you and it was just getting into sync, what is the top? Just give me three things. Like start with these, and then you go on from there. What's the three things that you should start doing to get into sync?
The first is you have to have your business set. So you can't get into sync if you don't have what's called an IPI number. So you have to be signed with the PRO, which in the US is
Mm-hmm.
BMI, ASCAP, or CSEC. And when you sign with them as a
Mm-hmm.
writer, you get what's called an IPI or
Is
CAE.
C-Sec still invitation only?
CSEC is invitation only. So they
Okay,
gotta
I'm sorry. Go
you
ahead.
got to get an invite. But
Right.
you sign in the U.S. You can sign with one of those three as your PRO. There might be some others, but those are the top three. And then most countries only have one. So there's like SOCAN in Canada. There's
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
PRS in Europe. There's GEMA in Germany. So most countries have one PRO. So whatever country you're in, figure out sign with them as a writer, and then you can start going to these libraries. Because one of the things if they're interested in signing your music, one of the things they're going to ask you is what is your IPI number. And I
Right.
was working on a project with a collaborator, and they didn't have a PRO, and they're like, "Well, can you just use yours?" And I was like, "Nah, it's not gonna work like that." And so I was like, "So
Mm-hmm.
I can't submit this song because you don't have the PRO." So
Mm-hmm.
now I make sure that when I'm working with a collaborator, that I have their IPI number before we even do that. That's one thing. The other thing is if you're collaborating with people, you want to make sure you understand who owns what the splits are. I know
Mm-hmm.
someone that's big in the sync space, and they when they collaborate with a songwriter, they still keep the 100% of the master recording or the instrumental, so that they can pitch that to other
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. I was like, I never thought about that because I'm making the instrumental and they're writing the
Yeah.
lyrics. So I was like, yeah. And there's some songs that I've done where it's like I want to pitch just the instrumental to the opportunity because the instrumental will fit, and they don't want
Right.
lyrics. It's like, oh wait, so that's one thing to consider. And the third thing I would say, network. You want to get out there networking. There are, especially during the pandemic, even now. Like there were like 2 sync events on the same day, like a couple of days ago. So there are virtual sync events. There are in person, especially if you're in LA. There's a lot of things happening in
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta now. Down there, there's some things in Nashville, not as much in New York, as far as I know. But you want to get out to these
Okay.
events, and when
And
you
that's surprising about New
yeah,
York. Like you
it
would think it'd
is.
be all type of sync stuff in New York.
Yeah. So I'm hopefully I'm
Yeah.
working on some stuff, but it's when you start going to these events, you start seeing the same people and they'll start seeing you. So it's like, oh wait, this music supervisor is
Mm-hmm.
going out everywhere. Maybe, and then you'll get to meet them and then they get to see your name over and over, which is part of the reason why I go
Right.
live talking about sync. Cause I've met some like music supervisors and collaborators. I heard from one that I met just through these different communities. And he was like, yo, I got
Mm-hmm.
some of your music just across my desk. So I'm going to make sure we do something with it. It's like, so
Mm-hmm.
having that sort of personal relationship sometimes can take you farther. You don't have to have
Mm-hmm.
the best music. It doesn't have to be the the Hans Zimmer score. It just has to work for the
Mm-hmm.
scene because they're putting all this other stuff
Mm-hmm.
around it. There's going to be visuals. There's going to be sound effects. There's going to be dialogue in most cases. So it just has to work. Like it doesn't have to be. A lot of times,
Okay.
it's not the best thing um, that lands on the scene. Sometimes it's the one that worked, that came in on time, came in on budget, came in,
Mm-hmm.
was delivered.
Right.
Everyone
Right.
was
Right.
professional. They had their paperwork and all
That's
the
a good tip.
yeah,
That's a
all
good
the
tip.
numbers were
Cause we'll
set.
drive ourselves crazy trying to be the best, getting every little sound right, and
Yep.
you know what I'm saying. Just overthinking, and
Yeah.
you're like, man, just
Yeah. Yeah.
hit all the points you're supposed to make. Follow directions, read the brief, and send it off, man.
Yeah. Because
Move to the
I
next
mean, a lot of the sounds, especially on the cinematic stuff, strings and brass,
one.
a lot of those sounds haven't changed much, as long as they're high
Yeah.
quality. But there are some that
And
like
those and
you want to enhance for trailer
those
stuff.
plugins be $500.
Yeah,
Oh, the crazy prices.
yeah. I got a couple of them, but you
I
got to
got
figure
one.
out. Yeah, you got to figure out how to. I started doing reviews just on my YouTube channel. I didn't ever had like 1 million views, but I started like if I got a plugin, I would do like a review of it, and
Yep.
that led to opportunities to work with companies to like beta test, review, do demos for them, so that I can get some of these sounds that like I wouldn't have them if it wasn't for that. So like I'm not gonna pay $500 for these sounds, but it's like I'll gladly take them, do a
Right.
video for you, review for them.
Right.
So
do you have any go-tos?
oh yeah, so just I used to. I'm gonna share a couple. I used to do a lot of. I used to be all about like the free, low cost plugins. Not cracked, not illegal, but free as in like Spitfire
You got a
Audio.
crazy
Yeah,
one.
Spitfire Audio Labs or
They one of
Spitfire
the best.
Audio BBC SO Discover, which is free.
Yep.
There
I still use
is
that.
Project Sam has released something called the Free Orchestra. They have the Free Orchestra, and they just released the Free Orchestra 2, which is they're releasing a free instrument every month as part of that. So for years, I actually do a segment on another show called Mixing Night with Ken Lewis. I've been with that show for 3 years. Ken Lewis is a gold platinum engineer, has like over 100 gold and platinum records. Just worked on Taylor Swift. He's worked on a bunch of like Kanye stuff, a bunch of rock and pop acts.
Man, he's a big dog.
Yeah, he's big. So he has a show on YouTube showing his mixing secrets. He goes live 2 hours every month. So on every episode, I do a segment sharing like free plugins of the month or whatever on that show. So that's a good one to tap into to get some of those. But Labs is a big one. A lot of them have changed over the years. Keep Forest is when you talk trailer music, Keep Forest, but they're expensive, but they're high quality. But they also have some free versions of some of their plugins that you can tap into. Just check the agreements with some of them, because some of them will let you use a free version, but you can't use it on like commercial music that you're gonna try to license and things. So you want to check those, the paperwork on some of those. But as far as the paid ones, I would say, or low cost, let's go low cost. Spitfire Audio again has some like I like their original series, which is about $20, maybe $30 per plugin. So I started like when I started getting to the string orchestra stuff, I was like, okay, let me get this $20 string library. They have like epic strings, they have intimate strings. I think they have frozen strings, which I like that one a lot.
I got that one.
Yeah, and then they have like an epic choir. They have epic brass and woodwinds. So I'm not sponsored by Spitfire, but I should be. So I find like around the $50 range of stuff.
Spitfire.
Yeah. And it, actually, to be fair, they have sent me like free plugins over time, like just by talking about them.
It's coming.
Yeah. And I met them at NAMM a couple of years ago too, so like was able to be like,
a couple more movies, bro.
Yeah,
you gonna be in there.
Yeah. Orchestral Tools is another one. I really enjoy their.
I like them.
They actually have a free series called I think it's called Layers. They have like a sign player. They have their own player.
Layers.
And they have like a bunch of free sounds in the Layers series. But I use just recently got
nice quality too.
Yeah, quality is incredible.
Bad quality at all. It's a flute in it that I love.
Yeah. And they have the higher end stuff. So I think a lot of these libraries, they take samples of their higher end and put it in their like free versions. So they have Metropolis Arc 1, which I just got. It's not free. I just got that for like strings and orchestral sounds. So you got Spitfire Audio, Orchestral Tools. I would say Heavyosity. When you're talking cinematic stuff, Damage 2. Damage 2 is like the best cinematic drum library out there. If you have like a complete collection from Native Instruments, you might already have Damage 1, which is fine. I know trailer composers that use that also, or that only have that. But I got Damage 2. I got Symphonic Destruction, which is incredible I was doing like underscore tension stuff with that. Just things in their suite of plugins are incredible. They also have a free series called Foundations, so you can get a taste of their plugins. I think they have like a guitar in there, a bass sound, a piano. They have some strings and brass in there that are great also in their Foundation series. So check out Heavyosity. Let me see. I'll give you one more. So that's Spitfire Audio, Orchestral Tools, Heavyosity. And then there's so many directions to go. Let's go.
It's so many.
It's so many. I'll say AVA Music Group, which also focus mainly on cinematic trailer stuff. AVA, I don't know if it stands for something.
Never heard of them.
I think they're a little bit more under the radar, but AVA Music Group, it might be Ava, You know what? Let's run down another
Okay.
one. There's one called Fallout Music Group, which has like some insane sounds. I like they have like a riser maker that makes like riser sounds.
Ooh.
They have a downer where like you can create downer sounds in there. Um, so
Okay.
Fallout Music Group, they have a bunch of stuff that I use from them. And there's like I said, there's so many. Actually, I'm working on. I got to release. I keep talking about it. I'm working on a library list for just for cinematic libraries to
So
put out
dope.
in the world. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
So dope. Have you heard of Sound Paint?
Yeah, so that's another one. That's actually run by
They got some dope
a
stuff.
company called 8DO, 8DIO. So I have a lot of their
Uh-huh.
before they got SoundPaint, I have a lot of their plugins. Now they're bringing a lot of those sounds into the SoundPaint arena. But 8DO,
Okay.
I use a lot of their. They have one called like Hybrid Tools, I think. So I use some of the percussion sounds from
Mm-hmm.
there. They have a really great synth thing that's like $6. It's called Super Cluster. At least it was
Yep.
like $6 or $10. I use that for a lot of Act
I
Ones
think it
and
still
trailers.
is.
Yeah. Um, then they had something else. They had like a horror string like sound effect library that I use on a lot of my horror trailer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of it,
Okay.
but uh, try to figure out what that is. But it's like a
Uh,
horror string library from
I
8DO.
think I know what you're talking about.
If I can find the name, I'll say it. But yeah, so they run
Okay.
SoundPaint, and they're bringing a lot of those sounds over to the SoundPaint
Okay, I
side
know
of
those
things.
was the same guys.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
It's basically just a rebrand then.
yeah. It's a rebrand. I think it's in a different player. Maybe it's a little bit more user friendly. It's called Cage
Mm-hmm.
Strings is the name of the horror string. I think
Cage
that's also in
strings.
SoundPaint. CAGE Cage Strings. Um,
Okay.
So I'm using that in like a lot of the horror stuff. But yeah, I haven't used SoundPaint, but definitely a fan of the 8DO stuff. I use a lot of their. They have
Mm-hmm.
like this these whoosh sounds in their one of their hybrid tools libraries that I just use like on all my trailer stuff. So yeah, they're dope.
Man, I love their they got one that's called Epic Drums.
I don't have
You
that
got
one.
the taco
Tycho,
drums.
yeah, yeah.
Taiko drums.
Tycho, yeah,
Man, they
yeah.
hit so hard, man. They hit so hard. I love those
Yeah,
drums.
yeah, and they also, a lot of these companies also have like free stuff you can check out. So I think they have like a free piano. They might
Hmm.
even have some other free sounds. Actually, SoundPaint I think has some free stuff in SoundPaint that you can check out. So you can get
They got
like,
a lot of free
yeah, you
stuff.
can get a taste of like, maybe you could pay to upgrade, or you like, hey, I like this. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll upgrade for more higher quality sounds. But a lot of these libraries have
Hmm.
like a free taster of what you can experience if you purchase like the full thing.
Dope, dope, dope. So when it comes to arranging, bro, I was listening to some of your stuff, and I like how you use silence. Is that like a trailer format, or is that something that you're doing? Because I was like, man, he really used the breaking and the silence gaps well. I like how you do that. Can you kind of run down like how you arrange your stuff? Not so much. Well, you a trailer too, but just a regular sync track. Like how would you go about arranging it? Because I know I hear people talk about the ABA format with the super short intro. Uh, you got your own, or do you like follow just like the standard?
So it depends on the project. So like I did some pitch to some ad campaigns earlier this week, and those are some of those are like 15 seconds, 30-second ads. So I don't have time to really don't even have time for the silence because it's like, music start to finish. They're like really
Well, you
quick.
gotta
So
go.
if it's like an ad campaign, that might be something different. If I'm doing a trailer track, there is a structure in the trailer side of things. Usually if you start studying trailers, you start to learn about what's called the 3-act structure. So usually every 30 to 45-ish seconds, there's a break where the music stops. And that is to allow, an editor to cut in some dialogue, or if they want to switch to another cue because there's a transition in the whole music of the trailer altogether. It just gives the editor
Hmm.
some different tools to play with, and they can drop things out, move things around. It's almost like they can play Legos with the music if they have those silent parts. It's a little harder to
Right.
for them to put in those silent parts if the song just continues nonstop. Um,
Mm.
I do
I,
have, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I noticed that you don't use risers or effects going into the next section. Is that on purpose?
It is sometimes it just depends. Usually, uh,
It's very clean.
yeah, usually I might, and also with the So let's say I do a trailerization. Let's take the Kendrick Lamar. I know you say you like that one. So that Kendrick Lamar track is probably 2.5 minutes. But when I post to social media, I'm only posting 30 seconds to a minute of it. So I'm doing the editing of the 2.5 minute track and cutting it down to a social media like friendly size. But if I send it to like a library or to a movie trailer opportunity, they're gonna get the full track. But social media, they like you know the shorter form content. So and then I'm editing it. Maybe I'm adding footage to it if I can find like a music video or like in that case,
Oh,
I had shout out to Jared, who was also on the NAM panel last year, but I didn't know he was like getting footage of me around NAM. So he got footage of me talking to Mixed by Ali about,
I saw that. I
yeah.
saw
So
that.
that was his footage. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know you got this. Cause I'm just walking, I'm doing my thing. I'm walking around. I'm not even recording stuff. I'm just living in the moment. And I was like, yo, I'm glad you got
Right.
this. Cause now I can use that as part of the social media post. And then hopefully I'll bump into Mixed by Ali next week. And I can be like, yo, if you never listened to it, hopefully I can like get them to listen to it and send them the whole thing. And you never know what that can lead to. So,
Right.
the when I post on social media is usually a shorter version of the full track, and sometimes in the shorter version I remove some of those risers and things so that the big impact is like at the end of that sort of shorter version of the trailer. But usually,
Okay.
in general, I'm usually not bringing risers when I'm bringing back in the music. Usually, it's going to be coming out of that section where I'm bringing risers in. So like you can have the rise and then you have that drop.
Okay.
There's almost like a roller coaster. Like you have that rise,
Yeah, it's
but then
like pushing you to that next.
yeah, but then it's like
Got you.
you're like,
That makes
wait,
sense.
what happened? You're like, yeah.
All right. All right. How do you use sting endings a lot?
Yeah, what's
Like,
crazy, if you go to my website, thefingers.com, I actually have a royalty free pack that people can purchase called Sting Endings.
that is genius, brother.
Yeah.
That
So
is genius. Why haven't anybody? I've never seen it like a sting pack.
yeah. So it's royalty free, and
That's so
basically the
smart,
way
man.
it's laid out is I have different keys. So if you do have to sort of know what song your keys or what key your song is in. So it's like if it's
Right.
in C, I have go to the Sting Endings, and I have different folders. So it's like I have like a minimal where it might just be like the kick drum and the cymbal. Then I have like the full, which would be like the brass, the 808, the cymbal, kick drum. So you'll get all that in the pack. But it's called Sting Endings.
That's
It's on my
dope.
website, thefingers.com. And basically, if you know the key of your song, you can just drag the Sting ending into that, like the end of your song as like the end point. And so the keys are labeled to be like C, or it might be like E flat or D sharp. And it doesn't matter if it's major or minor because I'm only playing what's called the tonic, which is the root note, and maybe the fifth of the song. So it doesn't matter if your song is in major or minor. You just got to know what key it's in. But yeah, so I use Sting Ending. I actually use those a lot, and I've been sitting on that idea for over a year. And then I put it out like last year, and I was like, people were like buying it. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize people needed this. I put out packs that
Yeah, man.
if I can't find it, or it's like, oh, why isn't this? Why doesn't this exist? Because I was looking to buy one and I couldn't find it, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just sell mine. And I was
Yep.
like, same with I was looking for clap loops for some like upbeat percussion stuff I was working on. I wasn't really finding the loops that I wanted, so I made my own clap loop, and that's also on the site, a royalty free clap loop library. I released it on Black Friday because the pack is called Clap Friday, and it's volume one. So I'll have some more of those coming out. But yeah, so usually like if I'm looking for something online, and it's like either um, I'm looking for it, like I was looking for just some like reggaeton drum beats, just to get into that lane because I'm in the Spanish mode right now. So it's like, okay, if I'm looking for it, chances are other people are looking for it. So like, okay, let me put out my version of that, and maybe people, I need it. I'm sure maybe there's like, even if it's like 5 or 10 other people, but then sometimes it's like, oh, hundreds of people are looking for this. So
Yeah.
yeah, so just put it out there and put it on the site. So yeah, to answer the question, I do use Sting Index.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best practices for that? Because I got feedback one time from a library that said my sting index was too big. It wasn't like they just need a definitive boom in.
Yeah.
I was doing doing all that. Like,
Yeah.
is it like a certain way you want to go about doing that? It's like a set way of doing it.
I like to fade it out within, depending on the tempo of the song. But I So I think once you start doing more of them, you start to hear like, yeah, this is too long. Like, because if an editor is trying to put it in a show, they're going to cut to another
Mhm.
scene probably within 4 or 5 seconds, or cut to whatever commercial. I don't think there's commercials now, but so I would say if you
Mhm.
can have your music out, if they say we want to sing ending, like 3 to 5 seconds, maybe even less, but usually it's like uh, usually you'll hear like the root note of the song. It might just be a bass sound, a kick sound, and like a short cymbal, like not even a
Okay.
psh. It's like psh,
Right.
and yeah, and fade
Got you.
out. Um,
That's what
so
I've been doing lately. Sorry,
yeah, so
bro.
the sting endings, even if some of those, if people do purchase those, you can always just fade out like the end of that sting ending if you need a shorter fade. But a lot of them
Mhm.
are already short. Um, but yeah,
Okay. Dope, man. Dope. Hey, man. We like an hour already. I got like two more questions
no,
for
no,
you.
you
Then
good.
we go get up. Get you on your way, man.
You good.
Don't want to take too much of your time. So, on this podcast, we like to talk about, get guests on to talk about, all the ups, but also, you know, having been on a creative path is it can be taxing, man, on you, on the family. Um, has there ever been a time where you just felt like throwing in the towel? And if so, like how did you get yourself back going, and how do you keep yourself going?
So what's interesting is I would get asked this question. Like let's say 2 years ago when I was sort of like on the upward trajectory, and the answer was always like, nah, like I'm going in for it. Last year I would say was probably really trying just because of I had this grand idea for NAM, and some of the guys I had on the panel sort of took that and ran with it and created a whole nother event with that idea. And I wasn't like I was supposed to be part of it, but I
Mm,
wasn't part of it. So
hmm.
seeing like that side of things, and
I
like
think I know what you're talking about.
yeah, seeing that side of things, and I was like, okay. For a minute, I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't like move forward with the NAM thing. Maybe I should just fall back a little bit. But I just kept going. I did post something around that. My wife was very supportive. She posted like a message. I was like, okay, this is this how we moving with this. So I shared that.
Hmm.
That was like probably my most like. Got a lot of views last year, and people. What's crazy is when things like that happen and you share it, because a lot of times things happen to us and we keep it inside, we keep it internal, we keep it within our families, we talk about it, then we move on. But what I found is by her posting that, a lot of people were like, because I shared her post, a lot of people were like, man, you got a supportive wife,
Hmm.
things like that. But then also there are people who I didn't realize were following me, because I don't have like a million followers on social media, but there are people in the sync space and trailer space, because that's all I've been talking about over the last year. So they're following me and they're like, oh
Yeah.
man, I had no idea, things like that. People reaching out. Then I'm hearing stories about these guys and how they move in other spaces. I'm like, okay, it's starting to make sense.
Hmm.
Uh, but things happen. You might. So what that experience, because that's the most recent one that comes to mind, has taught me is I am a little bit more guarded with sharing my resources in my network, because I had these guys going to a different studio every night at NAM last year. I was inviting them to all these different parties that I was invited to,
Wow.
and opening up my network to them. So uh, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit more guarded this year, to the point where like I work with artists, and it's like, okay, I might work with the artist, and we're pitching to, literally a month ago, I had an opportunity to pitch to like $1 million brief. It was two ads, five
Wow.
$500,000 each. And one of the artists I was working with, to pitch to this, they were like, "What's the library?" And I'm like, I can't tell you. I'm like, I'm not. I could. I mean, some libraries do have an NDA. I work with one library that has a lot of these opportunities. It's
Hmm.
NDA, so I can't tell. But it's like, let's get the song done. If it places, then I'll tell you. But other than that, what's crazy is I was working on a unique idea with the artist, and with someone who was connected to an artist, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be, it's like a 500,000 trailer. And they were like, well,
Hmm.
what's the library? And I was like, I can't tell you, but let's get the song done. And what's crazy is they never,
Right.
they did the song, but it wasn't done in time by the deadline. So I was like, if I told you the library, you probably would have ran with it and did it on your own thing. But
Right. That's crazy. That's messed up. You got to be like that. But I understand it, though. I definitely understand.
yeah, and then also hearing stories from other people. So you try to learn these different, you learn as you go, but you also can learn from other people's lessons. Like, hey, oh, that happened to you. Okay. So to the
Hmm.
point where I'm talking to, I have about 20 panelists that I'm organizing for NAM, and I'm talking to them, and I'm learning, insights from them. A lot of these people are been in the industry 10, 20 years, and they're like, yeah, you want to stay away from these people, or you might want to be cautious if you sign any deals with these people. Or so it's like, okay, I'm learning from them,
Really?
which is great, because it's like I'm putting them on like the world's biggest stage. NAMM this year, one of the two of the stages I'll be on have 500 people in the room. So it's like, okay, yeah. So just being able to present that to the world, and being glad that I didn't step back from it, because if not me, then who? Or I'm sure that slot would have been filled by something else. But to this extent, to this level, for me to bring the opportunity to bring a lot of people who've never been on the stage before, period, and if not any stage.
Not only the people that have been on the stage, but you put us on stage.
Yeah,
that's crazy in sync. Like, but some people probably didn't even know it was that many of us pursuing and doing and being successful in sync. And it was right. You put it right on stage.
Yeah,
that was super dope, man. I want to commend you on that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I was talking about that. Like, I went to NAMM. The first time I went to NAMM in person was 2022. And when I went there, I was seeing all these events and things, and going to all these workshops, and I had so many ideas for them. I actually pitched to them a bunch of ideas, and they really leaned into the sync thing. But I didn't tell them that the panel I wanted to put together was going to be all African American men. They was like, yeah, do what you want. To the point where they actually they wanted me to cut some people because we had too many people on the panel because the stage wasn't big enough. And I was like, yeah, I got 7 people plus me, so it's 8. And they're like, yeah, you need to cut like 2 or 3 people. And of course, like, when the other thing happened in retrospect, I was like, yeah, I know exactly who I would have cut. Hindsight 2020. But I basically put myself and my brand on the line. I was like, look, it's all of us or nothing. And they could have been like, okay, we're going to cut the panel, but luckily they stuck with it. And then they are offering more opportunities, more stage time, and bigger stages this year. So, and then I have a list of, just from that alone, and I go more about this in the webinar, but I have a list of 30 people who I asked to be on the panel this year who were unavailable or couldn't do it for whatever reason. So I already have, people lined up for events, and 4 panels and 4 discussions, and they know what I can do based off of what I have done last year. And it's not just NAMM. I work with AES, South by Southwest, and some other companies. So
are you gonna be in South by Southwest this year?
I was trying. I live in Virginia, DC area. So the thing is, getting to these places sometimes, you gotta pay to play. A lot of them are like nonprofit, and they're not really paying speakers to come out, which is understandable. So it's like, okay, I gotta get out there. But I've been had some chats with them. But right now, focusing on NAMM. I actually have another event. It'll, by the time this loads up, it'll be past. But I have a virtual event that I'm speaking at this weekend called Sync Music Success, which is a virtual sync conference. The NAMM, and then I've been asked to go back to another conference in LA in June. Hopefully I can make that happen. Asked to go to a conference in Nashville, I think in March. Asked to go or May. Asked to go down to Atlanta for a conference in March. So definitely doing all that on top of, like, our daughter's graduating this year. We have some big birthdays coming up this year. Yeah, it's gonna be. I've been married forever. My wife and I celebrating 20 years this year, so it's gonna be.
Congrats.
Thank you, appreciate it. Gonna be an insane celebratory year. So it seems like everything is like, all the good things are happening at once. So it's like the good definitely outweighs the bad and the negative. And then being able to also have these resources that I can tap into, be like, hey, like the guy who asked me, he's like, hey, this company is looking for hip hop beats, and I can tell them, like, maybe stay away from them, or I would stay away from them because they take sync and these things. So I'm learning, but then I'm also able to teach and pay it forward to others, and just tell them what I would do, and they can do, run with that how they want.
So that just happened. My internet decided that it was done working for the day and just went out on me. And the service didn't come back till later on that night. So yeah, but fortunately, the homie The Fingaz left us a really good outro. He left all his information, what he got coming up in the future. Somehow he was able to get back on to the stream. I wasn't, so I appreciate him for that. It was a really dope outro. Gonna listen to that or see that after this. What else I got to tell y'all? We didn't do the affirmation because the internet shut off on us. We didn't get that far. I was gonna do a form, but it just didn't hit the same and it had the same effect. So I'm just gonna leave it at this episode. And hopefully we can get another conversation with the fingers in the future, so we can end it out right. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'm gonna take it to the outro that the fingers left for us. Peace.
Yeah, so I'll definitely thank you, Jay, Tempo, and the whole Creatives Conversation podcast team for the opportunity. One thing that I would share, if you are looking for any services, any sample packs, go to thefingers.com. I have the sample packs on my site, thefingers.com, that I sell. I also have the services, the trailerization services. I do one-on-one consults. You can book 30 minutes or an hour with me to chat about music, sync licensing, music business, networking, any of the above stuff. I have more up, but I also have, like I said, the sample pack. I have the Clap Friday that I talked about in this um, episode. I also have the Sting endings that I talk about. I have a pack called Luxurious Keys, which is like Maybach music type keys. I have orchestral, like sounds and loops up there. So all kinds of stuff. I have organ loops. Like I said, I used to play in church, so I have some organ loops there, some other piano loops. So definitely check out thefingers.com. Go to sample packs. I also have the networking webinar. So if you want to learn about networking, and then you can check that out for purchase on the site, thefingers.com. And you can join my Facebook group, Secrets to Success. It is a free group on Facebook where you can come in. You can ask any sync questions you have about sync licensing. That is Secrets to Success on Facebook. And then just follow me, DaFingaz, DaFingaz. I mostly post on Instagram and LinkedIn, but Instagram is my main post for sharing like the sync stuff, the trailer stuff, trailerizations. You'll see some snippets there in the tagged post up there on Instagram. I think that is all the links. And be on the lookout for more material. I'll be maybe by the time this episode is out, I'll have that resource guide for cinematic epic libraries that you can use in your music productions. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. Shout out again to Jay Tempo, Creative Conversation Podcast. Looking forward to meeting some of you. Hopefully you can connect with me on some of those platforms. And yeah, let's make this a great year for our sync licensing business. Be safe and be well, everyone. All right. Peace.